Okay, so hi there, everyone. It's great to be here, and we thought that we might get together a couple of creatives and talk shop today, and we'd like to speak a little bit about ebook publishing and learning about ebook publishing, because it is a fairly hot topic and it's quite interesting for a lot of people, and it's also really a lot of information out there to try to navigate through. It can be quite a jungle of information, actually. So we thought it might be a good idea to just kind of get together, have a chat, and share what we've learned so far in our process of getting started with ebook publishing. Um, and my name is Alice. I'm a creative writer, and I'm here today with Liza Fontana, who is a creativity coach from thecreativehowto.com, and also Tracy Vetting-Wolf, who is a designer and artist, and you can find her at her website, tracyvettingwolf.com. Yeah, so maybe we'll go around and each person can kind of introduce themselves a little bit and give us a bit of background information and tell us what your interest in ebook publishing is, and we'll kind of take it from there.
All right. Well, okay, I'm Liza. I'm a creativity coach, and my interest is doing in miniature illustrated books. So maybe combining a little bit of creativity coaching and illustrating at the same time. So just mini books, and I like that self-publishing lends itself to being able to produce things quickly. So that's really my interest there.
Oh, cool. Okay. And have you published anything previously as an ebook, Liza?
I've collaborated and published some things with other writers where I did the illustration on their books. So I'm familiar with CreateSpace and doing the Kindle version of things.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
CreateSpace is a big one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Tracy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I'm Tracy Vetting-Wolf, and I'm a designer and an artist, and I immerse myself right now. My practice is a lot in art journaling and using that as a mechanism for empowering your own personal creativity. And I've just been, I like to make a lot of things, and I like to be self-sufficient about it, and I like figuring things out. And so knowing how to make an ebook, I was like, ooh, yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, knowing how to sew your own clothes or build your own treehouse, whatever. It's like, yeah, I'd love to know how to do that. So, Alice, when you asked me to help you out with publishing your ebooks, I was like, oh, there's a very practical purpose. I would learn a lot doing this. And I can see this getting done in a matter of, days. It's not like somebody says, I have a goal, I want to do an ebook, it's going to take me 6 months to write it and, another 6 months to publish it. I'm like, no, this is doable. And so I was like, I want to learn how to do this by helping. So my experience in doing ebooks really is just that. And in the process of doing that, I feel like my eyes are open. Like there is so much in the ebook world that I'm humbled by it. I still feel very much like a novice. There's a lot of complexity there. And my interest, I wanted to learn it too because I have aspirations of how could I make an ebook that reflects a lot of the art that I'm making, and so that involves some more complexity than just an ebook that is more text-based for readership kind of a thing. So that's going to be probably my next intriguing little challenge.
Cool. Yeah. So, Tracy, thanks very much for mentioning my project. You've kind of already introduced me for myself without me having to do it. So yeah, I'll just maybe say my name is Alice Houtmacher, and as I mentioned earlier on, I'm a creative writer, and I have an interest in ebook publishing because I would like to be able to put my stories out there quickly, cheaply, as Tracy kind of already said, self-efficiently. And I was really drawn to ebook publishing because I had spent, a number of years in different writing courses and writing groups, and looking for ways of getting my work out there, and kind of the different channels of, like, for example, traditional publishing, or trying to get recognized in a writing competition. That all seems to be, highly complex and not necessarily certain that you would have your work published in the end, even if you do have a great piece of work. And I've read, stories about writers who write a fantastic short story, they submit it for a writing contest, and one year they get rejected entirely, and then the next year they submit precisely the same story in precisely the same form to the same contest again, but there are different judges on the panel, and then they get prizes, and they get all this great recognition. So, like, that just kind of shows to me how arbitrary these kind of channels are, which I don't want to devalidate them in any way, because I'd still be kind of drawn to trying to get my work into those channels as well. But for me, e-publishing or ebook publishing felt like the quickest and easiest way to just get something out there. So I had a couple of short stories in my files of things that have been kind of on my shelf collecting dust for a while, and I was so fortunate that Tracy was able and willing to help me.
Crazy enough. No, I'm kidding.
Do the formatting and put it all together. And so I was really delighted that I had her support and assistance in putting my first 3 stories out in ebook form this past week. So that was a really exciting little time for me. And I think that we had a great time learning together as well.
Definitely.
So yeah. And I think, Tracy, you also said that there's just so much information there that you felt very humbled by it. And Liza also mentioned CreateSpace, so I'd like to hear a bit more from her about her experience with CreateSpace. And yeah, if you could maybe share with us what you did there.
Yeah, well, it's been a little while, but so CreateSpace actually has pretty good instructions. So they have the specs on what you need to do. When I had done it, I had used Microsoft Word to format it, and sometimes the formatting gets a little funky. So I think that was the biggest challenge to overcome. And then you have to kind of put in the illustrations and the graphics, which that can also be hard with ebooks, because ebooks are not really designed to be illustrated books. Mm-hmm. So I think that's maybe where iBooks Author would lend itself to be more of a visual format. So I think after having done it once, I probably would go a different route for illustrated books. Mm-hmm. But if you're just doing like a graphic for a chapter heading or something, it's called inline text, so your photo or your illustration has to go in the text box. So you kind of are limited on how the illustrations behave in that document. So they can't really go to the edges of the pages with what they call a full bleed. So there's going to be some things that you can't do in an ebook. And I think they do that because it has to be resizable. So if you're going to be changing the font size when you're reading it on a Kindle or something, and then if you had illustrations, they wouldn't really resize. So anyway, that's kind of my unique perspective, because illustrated books is what I'd really love to be doing. But the books that I had worked on were more poetry books, so a friend of mine had done the writing for it, and then I did the cover design, and then together we kind of formatted the insides using CreateSpace's template, and then you upload it.
I think Liza froze.
Yeah, Liza, I think we lost you there.
You upload it, and then you hold your breath.
And something happens, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope that Liza isn't gone forever. I hope she can reconnect. Maybe there's something with her internet connection that's going
Well,
on.
it's interesting to hear that the create space process, and it makes me feel like it wasn't altogether very different from what you and I were doing with Smashwords.
Mm. Yeah. And you know what? I don't think that it will be, entirely different. I think the differences in terms of the process are probably going to be quite similar. But um, like I was saying to you the other week, I chose Smashwords because of the limitations that Create Space has, and that those limitations would not meet my own needs. So, for example, with Create Space, you do have to have a minimum page length of, I think it's 24 pages, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. And for myself, that wouldn't have been suitable because I was just doing 3 short stories, and and they were each only a couple of pages long. I wouldn't have been able to reach the minimum page length requirement unless I created a compilation, which I didn't really want to do because I didn't have
Mm-hmm.
enough stories that fit into a theme to put together into a compilation piece. So that was one of the drawbacks that I saw with Create Space, and another one was that um, it's not particularly pen name friendly, and I write and publish my things under a pen name, so I wanted to be able to use my pen name, and they kind of have these regulations about the whole money exchanging hands and tax declarations and this and that, which is fair enough. I get that, but at the same time, like, writers have been using pen names pretty much since people have been writing. So for that to not be better considered on the side of Amazon, I thought that was a bit disappointing. And I also mentioned the whole point about tax purposes. When I registered an account with CreateSpace, they had me filling in these tax forms for the U.S., which would be then evaluated, and and only when they were all fine could I have full access to my CreateSpace account. And for me, that again wasn't really suitable because I'm not a U.S. resident. I live in Germany, um, so I didn't really see why why should I go to all this hassle of registering all of this tax information for the American IRS when I'm not a resident. I'm a taxpayer in Germany. So for me, that wasn't very meaningful either. And I felt that Smashwords kind of gave me more freedom on those points. They had no issue with my use of a pen name whatsoever. They made it very easy for me to use a pen name. I didn't need to fill in any tax information. I did have to give a U.S. Social Security number, which I had anyway, so that much was okay. But they didn't have me filling out any paperwork, to be checked and evaluated by the IRS before I could have access to an account. It was much faster and easier in that sense, and they also had no minimum page requirement. So again, that fit the bill quite well too. Um,
Now, something that both of them do, my understanding, CreateSpace and Smashwords, is that they will give you an ISBN number.
yes.
Talk about that for a bit.
Yeah. So if you require an ISBN number, then you can get one for free, through your account on either CreateSpace or on Smashwords. They'll give it to you and they'll register your book for free. And in the case of Smashwords, anyway, you need to have an ISBN number if you want your books to be distributed through retailers such as Apple iBooks. They won't accept books without an ISBN number. So yeah, and I mean there are other ways of getting ISBN numbers. They do give you the option, if you already have an ISBN number for your book, then you do have the option of using the one that you already have, or you can get one for free. Or I think in CreateSpace there may even be, if I'm not mistaken, now I may be remembering this wrong, so don't hold me to this. But I think there's another option of paying for a different kind of ISBN number as opposed to the free one. But it's been a while since I looked at that, so I can't quite remember. I would need to look that up again. But like with I can't pronounce that, Smashwords. It was very easy, you just, after you publish your book, you just go into the ISBN manager and you can see your book title appear in the table, and you just click on the button where it says assign ISBN. It does that, and then you get a confirmation email of what the number is, and the number is also registered with your list of publications in the Smashwords dashboard, which you can see when you log in. So, again, it was very, very simple in that sense. Yeah.
And then once you get your ISBN number, it's made, it's uploaded, you have your ISBN number. Smashwords is also, they do the conversion for you from your WordPress doc, and then they make the different ebook formats available for whatever the audience wants to download them as. So they do the crunching on their end. But then what are the differences between like CreateSpace and Smashwords and other places in terms of where that book then gets marketed to? Like what entities then can become aware of that your book exists?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, I mean, to be honest now, because there's just so much information out there, and even investigating one option is like a major research project, I haven't really looked much further in my own research beyond CreateSpace and Smashwords.
Okay.
So, I mean, CreateSpace obviously has a really, really big draw because when you publish something through CreateSpace, it gets distributed through Amazon, and Amazon is worldwide such a
Big.
major bookseller that is very, very attractive to people. Now, with Smashwords, though, they are actually the largest distributor of ebooks for self-published authors and small indie presses. And so I found out about Smashwords because I started out looking for ebook self-publishing options, found CreateSpace, decided that their criteria didn't really fit for me, and then I started looking around for alternatives. And in reading a bunch of different writers' blogs, I just kept seeing Smashwords come up again and again and again, and so I thought, okay, I'll look into that. And so they are the largest distributor of ebooks for self-published authors and small indie presses, and they distribute to like all of the big ebook sellers. So you can have your pieces on Smashwords distributed to Apple iBooks, to Barnes and Noble. What else is there? Kobo, Oyster, Scribed. It can also be converted into a Mobi doc format for Amazon Kindle, and a number of other document or file types for all the different devices that are out there. So I mean, it's no wonder they're the largest, because they offer you all of these publishing possibilities in terms of file type, and also now, like, they don't ordinarily distribute through Amazon, but if you do have a book that sells $2,000, $2,000 and upward, you can request that Smashwords begin distributing it on Amazon, and if it meets that criteria, then you do have that option of it distributing through Amazon as well. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to share with you a myth or a misunderstanding that I had before I started working on the ebook with you, Alice.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
My weird perception, what I thought I was getting into was, okay, you find a tool, any tool will do, and basically format it, into whatever your page is, have the text flow, do that stuff. And then you save it to an ebook format. And I don't know, I didn't know what that was. I'm like, whatever that is, it's got to, okay, there's some format. I just save it as that format. I'm good to go. And then once you have that saved, then you can like basically do whatever you want with it. You could shop it around, you could sell it on your website, you could go and sell it on other platforms, whatever. Slight adjustment in my thinking. I was not really appreciating the importance of ISBN, for one. I wasn't appreciating that really kind of Microsoft Word was like the tool. And I wasn't appreciating having a platform that for which the book to kind of like sit on and travel through. I was thinking it was just much more free reign than that. It's kind of like, yeah, I got this file. Anybody want to read it? You know, kind of like.
Yeah, so almost like what a person might do with a PDF file.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. That was my impression. That was my impression. And of course, then you start getting into reading how the process works and everything like that. You start to really kind of appreciate the finer details of what it means to get your book out there and widespread. And so based on that, my question to you is, you have your 3 ebooks. They're on Smashwords for sale. Are you at any point going to desire having those for sale on your website?
Yeah, I would be very interested in having them for sale on my website. And that's kind of something that I would need to look at as a next step, is how to make that leap. Unfortunately, I'm not terribly technologically savvy. So for me, that really takes a lot of effort and research, and I need a lot of help and support from people who do know about that stuff.
If you're listening to this and you know, then leave a comment.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's something that I would need to look into, and I like that idea that you brought up, Tracy, of creating a file that you can kind of hand out or do whatever with. I think that would be really handy dandy, to know and understand how to do that. So I would love to know more about that. If there's if I need to always send people to the different retailers and say, oh, if you want my book, buy it from Apple iBooks, or buy it from whatever retailer it is that you like to go to, or buy it from Smashwords, or if I can have copies that I just have on hand, and I can just kind of hand out to people that I know and say, oh, here, have a copy.
Well, I think I was thinking that in my own naivete. I don't know. Now I have so much more appreciation for distribution. And for instance, there are so many different file types. It's not just one file type. There's like a handful of them.
Yeah.
Different devices will need different file types, and in order to cater to that, it's really nice to have all those file types available to download, and Smashwords does that. That would be not the kind of thing I would want to have to deal with necessarily with my ebook. Like that.
Yeah, and that was something. Sorry?
Oh, I was just going to ask a question, but you can continue with.
Oh, Liza, you're back. Okay, you're back. That's great.
Oh, how funny. Technology.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead with your question.
Well, yeah, I want a couple things. You mentioned maybe wanting to sell it on your website, but I was wondering, is it better, and this is just maybe a question for debate, is it better to drive traffic to your Smashwords or your CreateSpace on Amazon? Because I think that's how you rise up in the ranking if you want people to find you naturally, versus, because right now if you look up yourself, you probably will find it because you're looking by name, but if you wanted to rise up via keywords, I think that's also based on purchases and traffic and responses and feedback. So it may be just a different strategy. You're not going to make as much profit, but then if you can get more awareness around your work. So if your website was just pointing them to buy it on CreateSpace or Smashwords, then I think that might be another option for people. So it's kind of like investing. You're not going to make as much on the front end, but if you can get more people to find you on those other places, I think it might be a good option.
Yeah, it could be. I think that's another really good question that I would love to have more information about that. I did see on Smashwords one option that they offer for the sake of helping you to uh, circulate more copies of your book and thereby develop a larger readership, and that is through affiliate ads. And you do have the option of offering your book to give people who have you listed through the affiliate program, give them a larger share of the profit. And it's a process that they call juicing, which I thought was an interesting name. But if you agree to the juicing, then people who list your book as an affiliate get a larger share of the profit, and it thereby makes it more attractive to potential affiliates to list you. And the more people that list you, again, the more outlets you have, and the more contact with your potential readers. So that's something that could prospectively be of interest as well.
Well, there's a new thing out now too, which is also stirring up a little controversy. But or Kindle Unlimited, are you familiar with that?
No.
So right now, Kindle's now offering where you can actually rent. It's kind of like a library card. So authors now have the opportunity to basically buy in where they allow their ebook to be checked out and rented temporarily. And it's like a Netflix for books, so you get for a monthly, I think it's like $9 a month or something. And then, so what authors have the opportunity to do is put like one or all of their books in there. They're going to get a much smaller percentage based on each reading, but it's probably a way to get their name out there in a broader way. So it might be, I think I'm kind of on the fence on it, because on one hand, I'd much rather sell something and make a bigger profit as a creative person. But then again, there's that benefit on how much do you want to get your name out there. And so it might be worthwhile to trial it with a book or two and see how it goes. So.
Yeah. And I think that there are also online libraries that do buy your book and then lend it out, like a physical library would, but it's been kind of somehow reworked for the digital world. I'm not entirely sure of how that works, which is why the title of this chat is called "Learning About Ebook Publishing." So to anyone listening, I think it's good to emphasize that we are all in the learning process, and we're just kind of sharing what we're finding out at this stage where we're currently at. So yeah. And another thing that I just wanted to touch on, which I thought was interesting, that both of you had mentioned that you are very interested in putting together ebooks that would have a lot of visuals and illustrations in them, and the question of how that would be done, because a lot of the ebooks they're not really designed for that. They're designed to be more text-based, because they want the different file types to be very friendly for different devices, so it will automatically reformat your text to look good on a smartphone versus an iPad versus a Kindle versus if you're looking at a full screen on a computer. So you've got very different page layouts and page widths to kind of play with, and the text will automatically be reflowed if it's text-based. But Liza, I think you brought that up, that the illustrations don't respond to those shifts in device and file type as well. And so I'm just wondering if you have any knowledge or experience in terms of dealing with books that are quite heavy with the visuals and illustrations.
Yeah, I mean, certainly if you're going to do CreateSpace and do a standard ebook with an illustration, it's not going to flow very well. It's going to be basically a square in the middle of a page. So you're not going to get that interactivity that you might if, say, you did an iBooks book for, the Apple bookstore. So I guess it just really, I think that's how I would make the decision, is decide if it's going to be heavy on the visuals. I mean, you can do an ebook version for Kindle or Smashwords probably, but I don't think it's going to look as complete. It's going to look like it's just kind of stuck on the page. And then it's a little strange when you change the font size in the reader, then those graphics, either they change and then they kind of float off the page, or they don't change sizes. So I think there's room in this industry for growth in terms of illustrated books. So I think that's why a lot of people just do the PDF versions, and then that might be a good thing to sell on your personal website. But I mean, certainly you can do it in those. It's just going to be, you kind of need to design it knowing there's going to be, a half-inch margin all around. You're not going to be able to overlay text, so you kind of would have to design it with your text on the photo, and you just drop the photo right in. So it's going to have a very linear look, and it's not going to be, an experience. So I think that's really where doing an iBook might be better. And you can even add animation, and you can have all sorts of more interactivity on an iBook. So that's where I really feel like that's going to be better for illustrated stuff.
Okay.
The other tool that I'm aware of is InDesign, and I haven't used that, but I'm hearing that is a tool for making ebooks, and in particular offers one of the better options for integrating illustrations within that ebook. And since I don't have that, I was kind of researching, well, what might be generally available, and I'm still in the midst of researching that, but what I've come up with so far is blurb.com has some tools that you can download and use to create books that then they will print for people, and you get a portion of that proceeds, but it's not like the ebooks on percentage that you get like on Smashwords. But they have tools there that also it will do either the print book, like really nice coffee table books, stuff like that, or they also have templates and the tools for doing the ebooks, which, given their propensity toward, catering toward creatives and catering toward lush illustrations and that kind of a thing, I'm thinking that might be a feasible option. But in terms of the amount of profits that you get from it, I think it's far less than, Alice, what you're going to be experiencing with like Smashwords.
And that was called blurb.com?
Yeah,
Okay.
blurb.com.
Okay. Yeah, I've never heard of that before. I'd have to look into that. Yeah, I mean, like in terms of the visual stuff, I was actually thinking for one of my future projects, I would like to put together a book that is quite heavy on the visual. I was thinking actually of just making a poetry collection and making all of the pages entirely by hand. With paint, and writing the poems out by hand as well, and I thought that would be a really nice and fun and interesting project, and then scanning it in so that I could have it in digital form. But I think that given what we can see here from creating on on Smashwords, for example, that it probably will be quite problematic to do it in that way, and that I would probably need to find a different space.
I think you need a different tool. And Microsoft Word is it is a word processor and not an image processor. It won't deal with page breaks and full bleeds and floating images versus inline image. Like the word it's for the text. So, and what you're talking about really is, even if you're painting the words and there's text there, it's 100% images.
Yeah, it would be 100% images then.
And I've done that before, where I've scanned all the pages of a sketchbook, and I put that in Blurb and created a booklet out of it. Then and then I could buy it. And in fact, I have a copy somewhere, and other people can buy it too. But what I hadn't attempted to do with that was to have it available as an ebook. I just wanted another, because I was sending that sketchbook away, and I wanted a copy for myself. So I just scanned it all, put it in there, and ordered one for myself, and now I have it in a book form.
Okay, yeah. And so those are for actual like physical print books and not for ebooks then on blurb.com, is that right?
Blurb does both.
Ah, both. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that could be maybe an interesting platform to investigate a bit further as well for future projects. I'll have to keep that in mind. Um,
Maybe that'll be our next conversation. How well or not well that works.
it could be, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so I guess maybe we'll kind of start winding down and maybe just speak briefly about what kind of ideas we might have for the future. Any interesting projects coming up, or any experiments or things that you would like to research more about in terms of ebook publishing. What are the next steps for you as you see it?
I'll let you take this one first, Tracy.
Well, right now I'm wrapping up on the very last day of one of my art journaling and creativity workshops, and I'm wanting to make the content of that available in like a workbook form and an ebook form, and sell that, so that people have access to that content and they can do it at their own pace. And so people can choose, do they want to do that at a pace and an interval along with me and other people, or do they want to just get the book and do it at their own pace? And as I mentioned before, something like that, because it is so image intensive, I want to really have it designed well and have a lot of images and be evocative emotionally in that way. And so that's going to really drive my research and experimentation. Like, let's see if this is possible and see how far I can get with it.
Yeah, sounds good.
Nice. Yeah, and I'd say, I'm going to definitely be doing some ebooks just for more, nonfiction type work. And there may be some illustrations incorporated, but they're going to be very minimal, just like a graphic at the start of a chapter or something, and maybe a nice cover. But what I'm more interested in is doing more zines. So I know there's a thing called e-zines, and that's kind of basically self-published illustrated books and things like that. But the idea of a zine itself is very handmade, and so it's self-publishing, very kind of raw and in the moment. So you might photocopy things and glue things together and paste them, and then take it to Kinko's and photocopy it and then staple it together. And it's this really neat underground way of sharing more private stories, things that you might not talk about if you were doing a mass publishing. And there's a lot of zine fests and things where people sell their work, and it's a little more intimate, I think, than mass producing things. But I like both, so I kind of want to span the gamut and experiment and see which styles I kind of like. But I love the idea still of having tangible items, and so I don't want that to completely go away, but it is always nice to have an e-version of it, because there's always people who just kind of want that. So I'll always be kind of bridging that gap. So that's what I'm working on right now, and I'm doing a series of a couple mini ebooks that's going to go on my coaching website that will be kind of self-coaching related. So kind of how-to instructional guides, and try and make them fun and interesting. So I'll probably look into Smashwords and see how theirs works out. But I think what would be really fun would be to do a more interactive, using maybe the Adobe publishing suite and try and get really creative. But that's kind of like a long-term project. That may take a while, but that interactivity lends itself really well to illustration. So I think I might broach that topic.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, for myself, I think that I'd like to maybe stick with Smashwords for another couple of projects anyway. That would be, largely text-based pieces, just so that I can kind of get a better feel for going through the formatting and laying out process. I was so fortunate that Tracy really handled a lot of that for me. But I would like to kind of learn more about that process myself so that I feel more confident in what I'm doing, and in doing it on my own, and being a bit more self-sufficient in that way. But I think that I would also like to kind of branch out and look for other options where I would have greater flexibility in terms of use of image and things like that. So yeah, so I mean, I think we're all in the middle of a really interesting and exciting learning process, and there's so much out there that I think it will kind of take a while to make our way through. Yeah, yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. So I guess on that note, we'll maybe close then for today. So thank you for those listening. Thank you so much for joining us, and for listening in. And again, hopefully, if you have any more knowledge or experience than we do, or whatever, you're very welcome to share in the comments what you found out about ebook publishing. And we would also invite you to stop by our websites, check us out. I'm Alice Hutmacher at alicewhutmacher.com, Liza Fontana at creativehowto.com, and Tracy Vetting-Wolf at tracyvettingwolf.com. So thanks again, and I hope that was fun and enjoyable, a little bit informative for you as well, and we'll look forward to hearing from you at some time. And very special thank you to Liza and Tracy for participating in this with me. Okay, thanks, and have a good day. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.